Hey, Ramiro here from AgXcel, and today I'm going to be highlighting our GX3 system, which has a 155-gallon tank. We also have a 55-gallon tank version and a 25-gallon tank version, and we can also customize them pretty much to any type and any size. The nice feature about the GX3 is that not only the tank above for your fertilizer or solution, but we also have where you can put a carrier water in here, 45-gallon carrier, and what it allows you to do is rinse the system out in between applications. A lot of times when they're running with this, at the end of the night, they like to clean out the system because many times it'll plug the orifices or may have a chance of plugging the spray tips, because they use this quite a bit on potato planters, especially when they're using products like Quadris. It's really pretty heavy product, but it also has a tendency to plug orifices and spray nozzles. And so at the end of the night, what they like to do is fill this up with antifreeze and then run it through the system to clean it out. Number one, it cleans it out. It doesn't allow the orifices or spray tips to plug. And then number two, with the RV antifreeze, it really prevents it from freezing overnight should the temperatures drop that low. So that's a nice feature about the GX3 product. And we're drawing, like I said, from two different tanks. In this case, when we draw from the fertilizer tank, the liquid comes in from this hose right here. So at the bottom of the tank, it comes through. We have a ball valve at the bottom to be able to shut off the solution. It gets drawn through a three-way ball valve. This three-way ball valve allows us to basically draw from the fertilizer tank here, or we can also turn the knob and or draw from the rinse tank. Whichever one we're drawing from, the pumps will draw that through. We have an 80 mesh filter here, gets drawn through the two pumps, and then it comes around the back, and as it loops around the back, it goes through this cross, and this cross will allow us to do a few things. Number one, if we want, we can put a pressure transducer here. That pressure transducer will allow us to show pressure in the cab, whether it's our AutoX Compact, Green Star, Trimble, Ag Leader, Raven, whatever it may be. We can show pressure in the cab, or we can bypass the liquid. In this case, we can also go back and agitate, and what this agitation does is it allows us to agitate the liquid or the fertilizer while you're running. We have two agitation valves, and again, one allows you to agitate while you're going through the field. So you can set this agitation, lock it down. As you're going through the field, it'll agitate constantly, or let's shut that off here, or it'll allow you here to run the system. Let's say first thing in the morning, you want to get the liquid agitated that's left in the tank, should you leave some. And what that'll allow you to do is if you turn this to agitate only, it'll come through, once it comes from the pumps, goes back to the tank, it Ys with this one, and goes back and agitates in the tank. Once you're done agitating, the system's sitting there, liquids, you're ready to go. Then we basically turn this up and we apply it to the rows, comes through the flow meter and out through the manifolds. And in this case, it could be orifices, or like you see here, we have it set up with dual manifold bodies and microtubing. So depending on what kind of application, the size, the rate, we'll set that up with microtubing. The liquid comes through, and we typically, on those types of setups, we'll run a magnetic flow meter. We have all kinds of sizes. In this case, we're using a turbine flow meter. But we're going to demonstrate basically the functionality of this system, how it works, and then how it draws. And then one other critical element that we have here is that on all our systems, we have a bleeder valve, and this bleeder valve allows us to get the liquid going. So as you can see here, there's no liquid in the system. And so we want to make sure that if the pumps should struggle to get the liquid through, then we have to open up the bypass, and that allows the air to bleed out and get the system running. Now, one of the big questions that we get is why does it struggle to get the system primed at times with the electric pumps? And the reason for that is when you have trapped air in here, and a good example is either when you're starting the system, or also when, let's say, you're running through the field and you completely run out of fertilizer, and then it starts to suck air through the system. It's not going to damage the pump. It's not going to damage the flow meter. It doesn't really hurt anything. But the problem is once you have air trapped in the system, it's not so much that the pumps can't draw the liquid from the tank, but it's the fact that when you have a 4-pound or 5-pound check valve in the line, that check valve is trapping the air in the system. And so the air, these pumps are very, very good at drawing and basically creating pressure and pushing the liquid. But they're very horrible air compressors. And what that means is that pump is trying to push that air through these lines, through the tubing, and that check valve is preventing it from opening up and letting that pump get going. And so that pump therefore becomes kind of like an air compressor. It's horrible. It can't push that air. There's no mass behind it. And so it struggles to open up that check valve. And that's why we put a bleeder valve in the line, and that bleeder valve gets the air out and lets the pump start to get going. And once it gets that air out and you see liquid coming through, then that mass of liquid allows it to push pressure behind that check valve and open it up. So a lot of times you'll struggle in the morning to get that going. And a good practice is just basically take that check valve out of the scenario and let the air come out and get that liquid flowing. Once you do that, shut it down and off it goes. But in this case, all our systems, AgXcel systems, have a bleeder valve in line for that very purpose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this started. I have it set to 5 miles an hour. Let's see, and 4.5 gallons to the acre. I have my boom set. Everything's ready to go. All I basically got to do is turn the system on. So I'm going to show you how to get this primed, and the priming gets started when we hit the boom. You hear the pumps going. So that's one thing we're going to do, is make sure you see how the water started coming through right away. You want to make sure, depending on what you're trying to achieve, you want to make sure you're pulling from the fertilizer tank or the rinse tank, whichever one. In this case, I'm going to pull from the fertilizer tank, because I'm going to get it primed and show you, and then we're going to draw from the rinse tank because we have a different color solution in there. We want to show you how that comes through there as well. And then we're going to apply to the rolls, and in this case we have, like I said, the 1/4-inch tubing running through, and it's just circulating back through the tank. So I'm going to turn this on. It's going to get going. You see the liquid coming through. You see it priming. If that pump had struggled to get going, then I would have definitely opened this up. This just would go to the ground. I'd open this up and you'd see air shoot out of here. Once that air has cleared out, then you just shut that down. Okay, so now we have it running where we're at 4.5 gallons to the acre, 5 miles an hour. System's running. This would be the scenario where you're running out in the field, and then let's say you wanted to agitate while you're running through the field. So that's where this valve would come into play. You'll watch the pressure and the rate kind of jump around, but I'm going to open this all the way. So now that I've opened it all the way, I'm going to start closing it down. Now, it really depends on how much agitation you're looking to achieve. So the rate's locked in. I'm agitating. You can hear it in the tank running. And as I start to shut this down, you'll hear the agitation start to die out a little bit. My rate's still locked in. So right now I'm running through the field and I'm agitating liquid. The other scenario would be where I'll shut this off here. My agitation's shut down. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna apply the rolls right now. So in the morning when I get here, I want to switch this to agitation, and then agitation is going to take place while I'm running. Now there's a few things you're going to watch and see that happens. As I turn this to agitation, it's all going to agitation, but watch what happens to our controller here. So our controller senses that there's no flow. So when there's no flow, typically, right now it's agitating, but after a while, it's going to say no flow, and then it'll shut off. And so the way to get past that on an auto rate controller is that you basically just got to set the controller to manual. You see it on auto right there. We'll set that to manual, and once it's on manual, it'll just continue to flow. So in the morning, you turn the system on, you get here, and it'll continue to run, and you're agitating. Water's going through, it's agitating in the system. You do everything you need it to do. Don't forget to set this back to auto. And then when you're ready to go, we basically get to here, we set this to auto, and then bypass that back to the rolls. It'll bypass, it'll come back down, lock in right on your rate. There you see the rate locking in, 4.5 miles an hour, and you're ready to go. Now the third feature we wanted to show has to do with your rinse tank. So at the end of the day, you're running, you want to get back, and you want to rinse it. What you're going to do is it would simulate the same thing here. So I'm going to put it on hold right now. And then on the tank here, instead of drawing from your fertilizer tank, we're going to draw from the rinse tank. And that what it does is it locks it down. It doesn't let liquid back into your tank. The ball valve bypasses it and it draws it through. And then the other item we want to make sure to do is, where do you want the liquid to go? Obviously, you do not want it to go back into the agitation tank, because then you're just going to be mixing your, if it was water, maybe no problem, but you still are filling it. So you don't want it to go back into your tank of fertilizer. We want it to go out to the rows, and that way it spews out on the floor, and then you have the whole system rinsed out, and you also have antifreeze if you choose to have that in there. So what I'm going to do is I have it from here. I'm going to turn this back on. It's on rinse. You see it start to draw here. It starts to draw. It's coming through. Here, we'll see it come through the system in the back. So you'll see the pink coming through. It'll start to turn pink here. We see it coming through here. And then we'll see it coming through the rows. You can start seeing the change there. Now it's starting to go through the rows and going back out. So once you see that coming out at the bottom of the rows, you'll shut that off. Once you shut that off, then you know that your system has been cleaned out. You'll look at all the nozzles as they spray, making sure they're clean and so forth, and then basically shut the system off and you're done for the night. That's the GX3 system. Has a lot of features in there. We use it in a lot of different types of scenarios, a lot of different setups. The nice thing about it is we can integrate this controller into the Green Star, the Trimble, the Ag Leader, or whatever controllers out there. We can integrate so you can control this system with any controller that's out there, and the features all work the same. Any questions, give us a call at AgXcel, 877-218-1981. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.